If you are a good person and you are still criticized, this message is for you. Well, if you are a good person, you have probably encountered people who, despite your good intentions, always find a reason to criticize, humiliate, and speak ill of you. But when you hear this story, it will no longer bother you because remember that criticism is the fate of the weak. You will learn this and more in this reflection on the critical chicken. Let's begin. All the ducks were running around. The cows were trying to clean up. The sheep were hiding the garbage behind the trees. Everyone was concerned about making the farm look its best for the arrival of an important guest, a purebred horse whose wealthy owner had passed away, and his heirs, not wanting to take care of him, were looking for a new home where the horse would feel comfortable. All the animals wanted to make the best impression because if this horse decided to stay there, the farm would receive a generous monthly pension, which would undoubtedly improve the quality of life for everyone there. When the stallion arrived, everyone was left with their mouths open. They had never seen an animal with such distinguished appearance, beautiful fur, and such majestic behavior. This was undoubtedly an animal of a different caliber, so everyone was more than a little awestruck. "Good evening. I was told that you were already waiting for my visit. I hope I'm not bothering you." Instantly, the animals shook their heads to wake from their trance and began to meet their guest with enthusiasm. But there was one individual who stood out from the others: the chicken. "Welcome to our humble farm. I will gladly introduce myself as your personal guide during your visit, because I am the only one here with the pedigree to interact with someone like you. I'm sure you've heard of my family. We are one of the most expensive and exquisite chicken breeds in these parts. Let me tell you that the coop where I was born had its own pool that extended." The chicken continued to talk and talk, while the rest of her neighbors simply rolled their eyes because they knew her quite well. They knew that despite being identical to the others, she never missed an opportunity to show off. It could be long, but the invited guest interrupted that the chicken stopped boasting. "This is quite interesting, Signora Chicken, but I've had a long journey, and I would like to know if someone here could offer me their home for a little rest before I explore your farm." At that moment, they looked at each other. They had been so busy preparing the farm, they forgot to clean their own homes. So no one wanted to offer their home, and they started to make excuses, especially the chicken, because she didn't want the horse to find out how she really lived. "Well, if you want, there's a beautiful patch of grass next to my pigsty where you can lie down," replied the piglet, to which the chicken responded, "But how dare you?" "Thank you very much for the invitation," the horse replied, cutting off the chicken. And after that, he followed the little pig. Of course, the chicken followed them, determined to be the official guide to the horse for the duration of his visit. Upon arriving at the pigsty, the horse widened his eyes because the smell was truly overwhelming. "What a stench!" the chicken yelled. "How can you dare to welcome our guest like this? Didn't you have time to clean up?" "Oh, I'm sorry, I had some things to do, but right now I'll try to tidy up." "Huh!" The chicken turned to their guest. "Don't think that we are all as dirty as she is. She's really lazy." The horse simply nodded towards the little pig to thank her, and without saying a word, he settled on the grass that his hostess had offered. After a few hours of much-needed rest, he woke up, and the little pig was waiting for him with some food. It was some lettuce leaves that she had separated from the daily scraps they received. She had rinsed them a little and offered them to her guest. "But what is this rubbish?" protested the chicken again. "How dare you offer this? First of all, he doesn't need it because both the farmer and the horse's owner surely have prepared food for him. And secondly, don't you have anything more decent to offer to the guest?" The horse started eating some lettuce, but although he tried to hide it, it was evident that he didn't like the fact that the lettuce was mushy and smelled like waste. Still, he ate as much as he could. Meanwhile, the chicken continued without stopping. judging the little pig and claiming that there were animals on the farm who could be much more worthy. When he finished, the horse thanked her in a casual tone and left. It was clear how uncomfortable he felt. The rest of the day, he spent it next to the chicken, who praised, exaggerated, or entirely invented the great virtues of the farm. And finally, the time to leave arrived, and everyone was waiting for the horse's verdict. Would he stay, or would he prefer to look for another place? I want to thank you all for your hospitality. You have a wonderful farm. I think it's the best one I've been to so far, and I realize this thanks to your guide, the chicken, who did an outstanding job as a tour guide. Hearing this, the brown chicken stretched her neck even higher. Everything was wonderful, but unfortunately, I had a very negative, unpleasant, and uncomfortable experience with one of the neighbors. I found myself in unfamiliar situations that I'm not used to, and it even upset my stomach a bit. For that reason, I can't stay because I wouldn't want to go through something like that again. Everyone started to question what it was all about. Who made him feel so bad? And most importantly, who was responsible for them losing this new neighbor who could change their lives? Please tell us who made you feel so bad. I assure you, I will personally deal with this situation, the chicken said, looking dissatisfied at the piglet, who just lowered her head. All right, since you insist, I'll tell you. When I arrived and asked someone to let me in for a rest, your pig agreed. But when I entered, something disgusting struck me. What was it? Some of the animals asked, and the horse replied, what caused me discomfort and revulsion was the attitude of your neighbor, the chicken. The smug chicken continued to raise her head high, even when listening to these last words. It took her a few seconds to realize what she was hearing, and to what she was nodding without thinking. But when she finally realized that she was the intrusive neighbor, she looked at her distinguished guest with deep confusion. Yes, I found it repugnant how the chicken treated my hostess, who with kindness and humility offered me her hospitality, something no one else did. Just by opening her doors, she deserves all my respect and gratitude. I found it unacceptable to offend the kindness and generosity of those who offer everything they have with an open heart, with criticism and contempt. So I'm sorry. I know that there are many wonderful animals here who would make great neighbors, but gratitude and arrogance will never make you good. The chicken's head was almost on the ground, because she finally understood that there was no shame in not having the best house, the finest food, or the ability to brag about one's pedigree. But being ungrateful and critical is something that should indeed bring a lot of shame and embarrassment. I wrote this story based on the story shared with me by someone. If you would like me to write a story on a specific topic, please let me know in the comments. Undoubtedly, we live in an upside-down world, where good people often fear the opinions of those who are not so good. Doesn't this seem absurd to you? Liars, the arrogant, the critical, the ungrateful, the self-assured, and the fake people live happily as if all of this were something to be proud of. So, enough is enough. If someone is unable to see the kindness of your actions, stop paying attention to this upside-down world. Because being like the pig, having valuable qualities like hospitality, humility, and altruism is indeed a valuable trait. If you still have doubts about how valuable you are, I invite you to watch a video called "He Was Robbed and Changed His Attitude Toward Life." In this video, you will learn how to recognize your worth in the face of negative people. So I'll be waiting for you there to continue remembering how valuable you are, because we should never stop nourishing our mind, soul, and heart.